in the previous life when people still could go to events and touch each other.
Don't touch this very hurtful
The real normal life. The
Yeah,
real
so in
normal life.
previous life, people would meet up there, and not just people, but developers. So Jana, can you tell a bit about your previous life and the current substitute?
Well, to be absolutely honest, I started in IT 15 years ago, and like I'm really not being in game development, but in the business application development. I know like pretty much all about it, and I started as a technical person in a QA, a bit of business analysis. Always take a lot of initiative and stuff, and somehow I ended up as a communications manager, as a part of top management team in a company. I don't understand how, and then somehow I started to like partly in HR, but just because I did a lot of PR and marketing, and I realized if you can sell your company well, the people will come by themselves. You don't need to like write all those stupid stuff in LinkedIn and say like and offer a position, a JavaScript position to a Java developer. So that's how I ended up pretty much creating the communities. It was, I think, back to like 8 or 9 years ago. I worked in a company which was okay to host different events. I didn't know why. No one else did this back then in our country, in our city. But I saw that in Silicon Valley people get together, and like somewhere in Western countries, in London, people could get together.
Wait,
and
which year it is?
What?
Like you made an excursion into previous life, I understand, but like how previous is this previous life?
Yeah, it was like 9 or 10 years ago. It was like really, really long time ago, and like things like Meetup as a product, I think already existed, but I didn't know about it, or it was just starting up. But I realized that somehow if developers of the same technology or having the same business problem get together, they share a lot of things in common, and they all become more smart out of it.
And then you built a business on top of it.
Well, it took me a couple of years in between those. Because the biggest challenge back then, organizing like a community or a meetup, is, as you said, to squeeze out the knowledge from someone. Because well, you can call like or chat with a couple of people, you know, like let's say my first community that I built and I'm proud of, it was the iOS developers of Belarus and Minsk. I pretty much did. They just like iOS just was basically just starting up, so it was like less than a year as platform exists. And like the developers were super wanted, and some of them already tried something, right? So I knew a couple of people in person. I called them together to watch the broadcast of WWDC together.
So the business idea was to pretty much create the community and then sell the developers, you know, to the companies who want to hire them.
I was employed by a company who didn't know what I'm doing, but the company was okay with this, and they had like pizza and stuff, and I potentially had iOS jobs to offer. But back then there was like absolutely no content I could come up with, so this was like, let's watch together WWDC, have a pizza, and just meet each other in person. So this was like the first time ever in the Republic of Belarus when the people got together
and got free pizza.
Got free pizza, and they actually like had some handshake, and they like had some, you know, like jokes and talks about their pains, just like in between something. And right there we booked a date to meet again next time. And someone said that, like, well, it's a bigger question. Let me explain it next time we meet. And it was like something about a certain new functionality of the iOS or something. So, and then they met together again. It was already not 7, but it was like 20 people, because they brought their friends again. And then they met again, and then I realized, oh my gosh, I need to make a conference from all of this.
And you actually made one.
Yeah, that's actually, it was the first ever Russian-speaking conference on mobile development, the first ever. Like Moscow didn't have one. Like Kiev, St. Petersburg, anyone didn't come up with this idea, and especially content. And I needed basically to bring all our clients from who were somehow involved in mobile. To talk, because it was very hard to squeeze out the knowledge of some local people. But what I did ask, basically, I was approaching them and starting with something like, what are you working on right now? What are your challenges? And then I came again in a week asking, did you solve this challenge of last week? And the person said, yeah, it was actually like pretty interesting, and started telling me about this. And I said, okay, would you be okay telling this to more people? Like, oh, no, I don't know how to speak. But you just told me, can you just repeat that? And I had the most geeky geek speaking on public, of course, like in front of 20 people, like no slides. And once we didn't have a whiteboard, and the person was just pretending he's drawing in the air, explaining some really heavy structures to others. It was so nice. But this is how we basically started to do certain events and bring more and more local content. But back for the moment, we were basically bringing the international people in the country. And yeah, like as Oleg said, after a couple of years of pretty successful conferences, which we were trying to make really cheap and affordable, like, less than $100 entrance ticket for 3-4 tracks conference, snacks included. I mean, like, it's not possible in any other country.
So
but
you eventually built a community, and because you were the only at the time, and you had a niche both in terms of technologies and in terms of language, so this is how it worked. It was pretty much prestigious.
Yes and no at the same time, because the industry was really hot. Everyone wanted something, and the copycats started to pop up really, really quickly. And pretty much every company that has at least, one developer who could say something started to organize some events, like just copying everything. Like there is a speaker, there's free pizza, and there are like a lot of HR girls basically hired you right there, and it was really disgusting. And developers stopped to attend any events like this. So if you wanted to do something, that was my second invention, you need to do it outside of the company's office. So I hired a photo studio, which basically could accommodate some people. And we paid for it together, like a couple of companies, 2 or 3 companies, for pizza and hiring of an external venue. But we, like back in the time when company events couldn't gather more than 20-30 people, we gathered like 100 easily. So slowly, step by step, I was like always trying to invent something new, so then others could copy, and like it ended up on invented something that others just cannot. When we launched our own venue, Eventspace, and just the whole team of couple of event managers started to work full time on organizing IT events, IT community events. We involved a lot of companies for sponsorship. We did make the bigger conferences as like projects who did have some budget to pay the rest of it. But mainly it's just like free meetups almost every day. And this project has been successfully on for Yeah, it's like more than 4 years already, and now can you imagine what's going on now? It's like
Yeah.
it's
So
painful.
since I'm trying to keep this all organized and
Yeah.
on time, on track, and we're running out of time even for to discuss this all. But basically, I still, Jana, I cannot let you go without asking you two questions. Pretty much, what was like? Was it a business or was it a fun project? That's first question. And second question, can you tell what you're doing with this now?
Well, hard to say. Well, in Belarus, it's almost impossible to get anything like a grant or like money from government to do anything like this. But to be absolutely honest, I only had as a founder outside of being a project manager. I only had some profit once, but it didn't pay my MacBook, so I had to pay like half of my MacBook from one card and half of my MacBook from another card. That's pretty much all the income I ever got from it. So, but
Inspiring,
legally, yeah,
Thank you.
legally it is a business. So we operate as a business company. We pay full taxes and everything, and it's basically just income from partners, companies, and a bit from conferences, and then reinvestment back into the venue, team, and having all this running for free.
And again, just for context, that's for I think 5 million people city, right? Minsk is 5 million.
No, Minsk is smaller. It's 2 million city and 10 million country.
Right. Oh, okay. And that's that's the city where gaming is based, like hundreds. Basically, that's the city with thousands and thousands and thousands of developers.
Yeah.
Right, and so whoever has ever dreamed about starting a conference and event space, so here we go. Jana is a role model.
Don't do this.
And
do this
now,
where it's all paid by someone, and best if it's not paid by one company but by 3 or 4, so they just don't twist your arm. And like once you have it all done, then that's a perfect thing to do. But other than this, it's just like very hard to survive. Coming back to your second question, we closed the venue right when the pandemic was announced, and before the government did anything about it. So we just shut up the venue. We did move all the events to summer and autumn. And as I said, we didn't really have this as a solid business with a lot of money on accounts. And basically now it's zero on every account, and it's hard. We launched a campaign that anyone could donate, like $10, $20, or more if you want, our services for the rest of the life. And some companies, mainly companies, did come and gave us basically some money to survive, and a couple hundred developers did, but not thousands. And the campaign aimed to have it all paid, I think, for 2 months. But after this, if this all just continues to be like this, I don't know what we're gonna do. But as for now, we are thinking of some online formats and trying to figure out how to live in this new world. I think the whole world will be changed really after this. Many companies will not come back to the offices and just save on this. Many companies will learn how to work distributed and just go with it. People will miss each other, so meetups will still happen. But somehow I just don't believe that the world will be the same after this whole situation. So
we have a question from the chat. Jivil asks the 3 most important things to avoid when organizing a meetup. I guess in current situation we can only talk about online meetups, right? I don't believe any physical meetups gonna return until autumn.
I think the
Yeah.
question is more like what you needed to avoid when you were starting the entire thing. So it's past tense in this case. So what was the three most important things you avoided when you were organizing meetups? So
Yeah.
Well, first thing is overbooking. You cannot afford more people to come than you have space. But at the same time, if it's a free event, you really need to be able to feel how much people will show up. So usually it's anything between 30% and 100%. It's anything, but then based on the topic, based on the community, based on the data of last show ups or something. But you really need to make sure for everyone's comfort that you have something like 80% booked venue. If it's more, it's like a bit like heavy, hard to breathe, and if it's less, people will not appreciate your meetup because many people didn't show up or something. So you need to work with the furniture and everything the way that 80% are always occupied. This gets a very, very good impression and comfort. Start on time, finish on time, do the breaks. Don't forget to do the breaks, do them bigger, do them larger. Make sure there is a lot of coffee, and the coffee should be good. Coffee should be good. That's it. Then you can the
Should be
content
perfect.
can be nice. The speakers can screw up something, whatever. Well, the pizza can be delayed. Anything. The coffee should be good. That's it.
So is it
Nice
is
suggestion.
it free or is it?
Of course, it should be free, good coffee.
No, three advices. Three. No, that's six. That's three.
That's three advices. It's good advices. So
Good.
be on time. Yeah.
Hassan and
go ahead.
Mustafa, I mean, you've been to lots of events. What's any comments on that? And overall,
Yeah, basically I co-founded the same a group of people interested in free software. Like I'm personally I'm a free software advocate.
Yay!
So along with a bunch of my friends, we kind of co-founded a Linux users group in our hometown, which is 1.6 million people live there. And we were successful, and the group still exists after 13 years. And we held multiple events, which I've sent a link to the chat between us.
it's live.
So,
I'm sorry.
oh yeah. So anyway, and it was a great experience because we learned together, we grew together, we became good friends, like from different places around our city or even outside the city. And we kind of referred each other to different companies for jobs. So that was the best part of it. So I don't remember going to any interview, like a formal interview, which I applied for. Instead, there were people like my friends, basically, who I met them at in those groups like meetups and stuff, who suggested me to those companies. So that's how I find my jobs in my country.
Cool.
The network.
So valuable
It works
community.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Valuable community, relations to each other, good coffee, no overbooking, but also no underbooking.
Yeah, I also did something really interesting is that like 9 years ago, we held an event, which I sent a link to the picture. You can share with others on live if you want. These like small bags hold CDs of Linux and stuff, DVDs and CDs and stuff. And also, I spent 2 months, like 2 full months. I wrote an introductory book about Linux that I found on a sponsor, printed it, like, and gave it for free to everyone attending the conference, like 200 people.
Amazing, amazing.
Yeah. And the book is open source, like on my GitHub account. It's in Persian. Yeah. So basically, I found out how like what issues those people have when they join the group, like as beginners in Linux. That I wrote this book based on those issues they have. So.
And we're totally over time. Hassan, you're the last to comment, or I don't know where we're doing it. Like we're
I'll do
over
it
time.
in less than 1 minute. I try to be real quick about it. So one thing is, I want to say that's amazing to hear your story, and I think if you did it once, you can do it again. So if you're a pioneer, you're gonna do it again. So don't worry about it. Cheers up and great job. That's my number one thing. My number two thing is I like your perspective with the three things. The thing is, the way we do the events, we do them in the company. So the coffee is already from the company. So it's good coffee. No worries about that. But I like your idea about the food and that we should provide food so we eat together. But I think it's a take I will take with me for the next event. And the third point you had was about the timing. And I think that's essential. One of the things that you need to be really clear about with the events is you need to be really clear about the topic of the events, because more people will show up if the topics are clear and interesting. So I'll take some of your findings and use them in my day. Thanks for sharing.
Now let's reflect on us for here. Like we are now neither on time. We detoured from the promised topics and from the promised format, and also I have tea instead of coffee. So 0 out of 3 on my side.
But you know what? It's the first time you're doing it, and I bet when Janina did it the first time, it wasn't perfect either. So it's the first time you're doing it. So we're fine with that. Don't worry about it. Oleg, you're doing a good job.
Good.
Yeah.
Till I started to use our local roaster and a good solid batch brew, it took me like a couple of years, guys. So,
There you go.